Okay, so let's dive right in. You're a founder. You've built something incredible, and you've got your first investors lined up. Now, these are often your friends, your family, the people who believed in you from the start, not seasoned venture capitalists. They're excited, they're ready to write a check, and then you hand them the paperwork, a safe or a convertible note, and you just see that look of confusion wash over their face. That's exactly what we're going to tackle today: how to turn that confusion into total confidence.
Man, this is such a common and honestly a really stressful moment. You've already done the hard part. You got them to believe in the vision. But now this legal document is standing between you and your first funding. And if you can't explain it clearly, you're not just risking a delay, you're risking a trust gap with the very people who are betting on you first. And this right here is the absolute heart of the matter. For these early investors, the relationship and their belief in you is everything. The legalese, that's secondary. Getting this explanation wrong can seriously damage relationships that are way more valuable than that initial check. This is your first real test as a leader, to be a clear, confident guide through all the complexity. To do that, we need to start with the single most important idea they need to grasp. It's a simple but really powerful shift in thinking. They aren't buying something today. They're investing in a promise for tomorrow. This slide really gets to the number one misunderstanding. Most people think, hey, I give you money, I get shares back. But that's not how this works at this early stage. A safe or a note is basically a placeholder. It's a documented promise that their money will turn into ownership. Just later on, once the company's a bit more established and we actually know what a fair price for the shares is. This analogy is going to be your best friend. Seriously. It helps your investor understand their money isn't just floating out there in space. It's being tracked, and it's credited towards a future purchase of stock. And it often comes with some amazing perks, which we'll get to in a minute. It's just a simple, reassuring way to frame the whole thing. This is a totally fair question, and it's one you should absolutely be ready for. And the honest answer is, it's just too early. Trying to put a price on the company right now would be pure guesswork, and that could end up being really unfair to either you or to them. Explaining why you're waiting actually shows that you're being strategic. It's just too early to set a fair price, and this approach protects everybody involved. It also keeps our ownership structure, the cap table, clean and simple, which is absolutely crucial for making it much, much easier and faster to raise a bigger, more formal round of funding down the road. All right, so you've explained the why. Now for the what. The two most common tools for this job are the safe and a convertible note. Just think of them as two different paths that lead to the same destination: future equity. So a safe, that's a simple agreement for future equity, is generally, simpler. It's not a loan, so there's no interest and there's no deadline. It was really designed to be founder-friendly. A convertible note, on the other hand, is technically a type of debt. That means it comes with an interest rate and a maturity date, a deadline, a ticking clock. Now, this can sometimes feel more familiar to certain investors, but it definitely adds pressure if that deadline shows up before you've raised your next round. Okay, so your investor understands they're waiting for equity. Great. Now you have to explain why that wait is totally worth it. This is all about the reward they get for taking a risk on you when maybe no one else would. There are two main perks designed to do exactly that: the discount and the valuation cap. You might use one or both. The crucial thing to explain is that both are there to make sure that for every single dollar they invest, they get more ownership than the big VCs who come in later. It's their reward for believing early. The discount is pretty straightforward, easy to wrap your head around. If your next round of investors are buying shares for $10 each, an early investor with a 20% discount gets those exact same shares for just $8. Simple, clear, and a very direct reward. Now, the valuation cap. This one is even more powerful. Let's walk through it. Say they invest with a $5 million valuation cap. A year later, your company is a huge success, and you raise money at a $10 million valuation. Well, their investment doesn't convert at that new higher price. It converts as if the company were still valued at $5 million. The result? They get double the shares for their money compared to the new investors. It's a huge protection for their upside, and it rewards their early faith in a really big way. So we've covered the technical stuff, but I gotta say, this next part is the most important. The documents, the terms, they're just tools. The real work is in how you communicate, how you build a foundation of trust that's going to last long after the ink is dry. Your ability to be a clear, confident, and honest guide through this whole process inspires way more confidence than any single clause in a legal document ever could. At the end of the day, They are betting on you, and this is your first real chance to prove you're a leader who can navigate complexity with total integrity.
And speaking of integrity, don't be afraid to say something just like this. Being upfront about the risk doesn't scare investors off. It shows them respect. You're not over-promising or selling magic beans. You're just acknowledging the reality of a startup. And that honesty is what they will remember and appreciate the most.
So let's just boil this all down into a practical checklist. Be crystal clear about the timeline for conversion. Promise regular updates. I mean, don't just take the check and disappear, right? Never, ever promise specific returns. Instead, promise your hard work and your transparency. And frame every single decision around what's fair and what aligns everyone for future success. This is how you turn an investor into a true partner. Ultimately, it all comes down to this one question. Because the way you handle this first, sometimes awkward conversation about paperwork, it sets the tone for everything that follows. So you have to ask yourself, are you just collecting checks, or are you building the foundation of a company that's worth believing in for the long haul?